If you have ever listened to some of John Mayer's big outro solos that he'll perform for Slow Dancing in a Burning Room or Gravity, for example, and wondered how does he get that beautiful, crazy good lead tone, well, you are going to love today's video. In today's video, we are going to be discussing the third overdrive concept when it comes to the pedals that John Mayer uses, how he gets that insanely great lead tone with multiple overdrive pedals gain stacking together, and I'll be showing you all real examples of John stepping on pedals for those big outro solos and different examples of different pedals that he'd use and certain combinations that actually will get him different lead tones depending on what he actually is in the mood for that night. So sit back, relax, and let's get right on into today's video all about John Mayer's third higher gain overdrive. Now, before we get into those examples and watching John step on some pedals before launching into some solos and listening to some really incredible tones, I first want to clarify what I mean when I say Mayer's third overdrive. Now, the normal pedal stacking combination that we hear for most solos John will do involves the Ibanez TS10 and the Klon Centaur. It's either the TS10 into the Klon Centaur or the Klon Centaur into the TS10 that we generally hear for most solos. And when it comes to those bigger outro solos, John usually has two options that he will most likely select if he wants the solo to have more gain and more volume. Either he will stack with those two drive pedals of the Keeley Katana as a clean boost in front of them, or he'll utilize a third overdrive on his pedal board in order to add more boost and more gain after the Ibanez TS10 and Klon Centaur, no matter what order they are in. And it's those third overdrives that kind of fit in that spot that John would rotate from time to time. It was never a consistent pedal that you would see on the board for a very long period of time. That's why we call it the third overdrive. It's not like it was always in the Mesa Boogie Flux Five, for example, that sits in that third overdrive position, because he would always experiment with that slot on the board. But that's all today's video is going to be about, those third overdrive pedals. And the best era to discuss the third overdrive is without a doubt the 2019 World Tour, as it was this era where we saw the third overdrive get utilized the most, as John opted for a lot of higher gain solo tones on this tour, which is why the 2019 World Tour for me personally is one of my favorite eras ever in terms of Mayer's guitar tones, because they were very unique and just absolutely incredible. So with that concept covered, let's start looking into some examples. And first, I'd like to focus on the Shin's Music Dumbloid B. This is a 2-in-1 pedal where it features the Dumbloid drive circuit as well as a boost circuit. Now on your screen, I'll have a shot of the Dumbloid B with both sides on, and you can clearly see that the drive side has a bright blue LED and the boost side has a bright red LED, and that's going to be very important for some of the examples we are looking for, just to 100% clarify what side of the pedal John is stepping on, because it's really cool how this pedal during the European leg, the third leg of the 2019 World Tour, was utilized in a variety of different ways. So the very first example we are going to take a look at with the Shin's Music Dumbloid B is going to be Gravity. Now, in this example, you will see John step on the Ibanez TS10 and the Klon Centaur at the start of the outro solo. He will perform a bit of the solo, and as the outro solo builds, he'll walk back towards the pedal board and step on the boost side of the Dumbloid B. This example of Gravity is very unique because it highlights how sometimes the pedal that John would throw in that third overdrive position has more than one function that he might use. This time for Gravity, John opting to use the boost circuit of the Dumbloid B, which is based on their Velvet boost, and it's not a typical clean boost like the Keeley Katana, for example. It's a low gain germanium tube boost is kind of what it's based on from what I've read up on it. So it's not the same as John adding a Keeley Katana post drives or even using the Kirkland booster as a final boost on the board. It's a bit of its own thing and still kind of within the realms of that third drive position, that circuit, at least that one half side of the Dumbloid. Now our next example is going to be from the exact same night for Slow Dancing in a Burning Room. However, this time John will stack with the Ibanez TS10 and the Klon Centaur the drive side of the Dumbloid, and you can hear the difference between utilizing the drive side versus the boost side for gravity in the gain and just overall power of his outro solo. Not only can you hear the difference, but you also could visually see that John was stepping on the side that was closer to the camera, and the blue LED was activated for the drive side of the Dumbloid rather than the red LED for the boost side during gravity. For our final example with the Shin's Music Dumbloid B, we'll be taking a look at Belief. However, we won't just be looking at one solo from this performance of Belief. We'll be taking a look at the intro solo, the middle studio solo, as well as the outro solo, because this specific performance really highlights a different way that John will actually use that third overdrive, where sometimes he doesn't necessarily need to stack it with the Ibanez TS10 and the Klon Centaur in order to create a higher gain and louder solo. Sometimes the way the pedals are set, he can just opt to using this third overdrive on its own or in combination with perhaps only one other pedal. So let's take a look at the intro solo first. Oh man, the tone John is getting in that Belief intro is just stunning, and what you would have seen there, I know the shots of the board and John in this video that we're going to be looking at for this final three-part example isn't the best, but what you would have seen John doing there is stepping on both sides of the Dumbloid B, turning them off. You'll actually see faintly that both LEDs are actually on the Dumbloid, and that's what John was using for that intro solo. Just the Dumbloids both sides, and together, man, that was quite a sound. And when I realized that that was what John was actually using, I was pretty blown away with just how great both sides of the Dumbloid together stacked alone sounded. Now, it's at this point here I should probably throw in one little disclaimer when it comes to this specific example of Belief and this specific incarnation of John's pedal board for the 2019 World Tour. Normally, John would have a version 1 Keeley Katana on the pedal board before the drives, as we know. However, this version of his board does not feature that pre-drive Keeley Katana. He does have a Keeley Katana in the effects loop of the Qtron Plus, which is sat on the third row of the board, but he does not have a clean boost before the drives. Now, on this pedal board itself, John does have both the Klon Centaur and the Solo Dallas Storm on it. So it's possible that the Solo Dallas Storm in this specific case and night was set a little bit cleaner to be a bit more of a clean boost with a touch of drive, and it's possible that the Solo Dallas Storm was on the entire performance. However, at the very end of this video, you actually see John turning off the pedals at the end of the outro solo, and he doesn't turn off the Solo Dallas Storm. So either it was left on for the very next song, which I think is unlikely, and what I think is more likely is just that it was never on to begin with, and we are just hearing John's clean amp tone for this specific version of Belief, which kind of goes against what John would normally do with that Keeley Katana being on for the entire performance. I just wanted to throw that in there because I've recently done a deeper dive into the pedals that John would use for Belief, using one of the examples during the 2019 World Tour as well that we're about to go over actually for the entire video. I'll card that video on your screen right now and link it in the description down below. Go check it out if you haven't already. If you like this video, you'll love that one as well. But I had to mention it because we're seeing kind of something that goes against what John generally would do for Belief with the Keeley Katana on as a clean boost. Alright, so let's move on to the middle studio solo that John plays for Belief. In this example here, where normally we'd see John stack the TS10 and the Klon centaur together for this tone, we actually see him opt to just solely use the drive circuit out of the Dumbloid B, and you can hear from the tone, it sounds extremely good. In that specific example, you would have also heard the Boss OC3 providing some octave effect for the first half of the solo Belief, which is really cool and something you definitely did not see John do often for Belief at all. Plus, you would have seen him step on the Providence Delay 80s, turning that on for the solo as well. But of course, our main focus being the drive out of the drive side of the Shin's Music Dumbloid B. Now, this just leaves us with the last example of Belief here being the outro solo. This time what you are going to see John doing is stepping on the Klon centaur as well as the drive side of the Dumbloid B to stack those two pedals together to give him his solo tone for the outro solo. Again, just another different example of how John is utilizing the third overdrive with different pedals or just on its own to create his solo tones. And we're seeing 3 different examples of solo tones in one performance, which is really cool. Moving on from the Shin's Music Dumbloid B, we will be taking a look at the Mesa Boogie Flux 5 for our final example. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of footage that I found of John using the Mesa Boogie Flux 5 in the way where you can actually see him stepping on it. There are tones where I am certain it's including this pedal as a third overdrive, stacking with the TS10 and the Klon Centaur. However, this is the only one where I actually have footage of him stepping on it, and this is part of the Belief full pedal breakdown I've done, but I wanted to include it in this video because it includes some awesome concepts that I didn't want to just touch on one pedal in this video when it comes to the third overdrive. So in this example here, John was really heavily utilizing the Mesa Boogie Flux 5 in that third overdrive position, however this time stacking it with the Ibanez TS10 for the majority of his solo tones, like for the intro solo of Belief here. When it comes to the middle solo, John again would rely on the combination of the Mesa Boogie Flux 5 and the Ibanez TS10, and you'll see him step on both of the pedals here before launching into that middle studio solo. Then finally for Belief we have the outro solo, and this time John has elected to use the exact same overdrive combination for all three solos. What you will see, however, for the outro solo is him only stepping on the Mesa Boogie Flux 5. This is because for the last chorus of Belief he actually left the TS10 on the entire time. So when it comes to the outro solo, you are just seeing him activate the Flux 5 to then stack again the TS10 into the Mesa Boogie Flux 5 for that outro solo tone. I also really wanted to include this example of Belief because in this one we see John utilizing the exact same combination of drive pedals for all three solos. Well, the example we had just looked at for Belief during the third leg rather, we saw him using three different combinations to create three different solo tones. And kind of the key takeaway here is that John always experiments with his pedals, which is why for the first leg of the 2019 World Tour we only saw the Zen Drive 2, the Smoky Signal, tubeless overdrive, and then as well the Blackstone MOSFET overdrive on the board in kind of three different uses for those three different pedals. Then the second leg we saw the Mesa Boogie Flux 5, then the third leg we primarily saw the Shin's Music Dumbloid B. John's always experimenting with different pedals, and then that kind of helps dictate his tones or his choices when it comes to gain stacking. Well, for a lot of performances, especially during any given leg, I'm sure the combinations were relatively consistent. This again just proves that John does experiment not only between different nights and different songs along a tour, but with different pedals as well. And I just wanted to highlight this as well, and just to clarify that it's never a 100% consistent thing with any given night on a tour, and especially different legs of the tour like this where pedals and gear choices do in fact change. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video today, and if you learned something, let me know your favorite tones from the video today in the comments down below. I have never owned a Shin's Music Dumbloid B, but after a lot of this research I've been doing, that definitely is on the short list of pedals I want to get because I love the tones John was getting with that pedal. It sounds absolutely awesome, and having a 2-in-1 pedal like that I think is very convenient as well, and just both sides of that pedal stacked together provided some really awesome tones that I'd like to try and see if I can get somewhat close to them with my guitars and my amps at home as well. So until the next time you guys, thank you so very much for watching today's video. If there are any other concepts or videos like this, like the one I even did just breaking down all of Belief when I found really good footage of it, or just another concept like the third overdrive you want me just to tackle with multiple examples, let me know in the comments down below and I'll do my best to make that happen, because that's how the Flint one I did came out. One of you asked for me to do one on the Flint, and I was like, yeah, that'd probably be a good idea for me to do. I'll get it done. So I always try and go for the videos you guys want to see if it's possible. So thank you guys again so much for watching, especially if you stuck with me till the very end of the video. I really appreciate it. Take care, and we'll see you on the next one.
Anyway, go ahead and click the subscribe button if you like what you see.